International airport in the South China Sea solved the problem of space, but an airport at sea would expose aircraft to some dangerous weather. Hongkong International Airport sits in the pathway of deadly typhoons. But meteorologists can easily see a typhoon hundreds of kilometers wide as it races in. It was, in fact, an invisible threat to planes that airport designers really worried about. There is another kind of weather that can ambush unwary pilots, and it can be lethal for planes precisely because it is less predictable. It's wind shear. Wind shear is any localized change in wind speed, and Hong Kong International Airport is located in a high-risk zone. Positioned between mountains and the ocean, normal wind patterns don't apply here. Rapid wind changes can affect the amount of lift on aircraft wings, causing planes to accelerate or stall catastrophically. Aircraft can literally fall out of the sky or be blown off course. In 1998, this Thai Airlines Boeing 777 attempted to land at Hong Kong's old airport. It's a smooth descent until the plane is blown off course just seconds before touchdown, landing on just one set of wheels. Successfully this time. But wind shear can be fatal. In the last 60 years, over 1,400 people have died in accidents caused by this invisible threat. Fortunately, planes in Hong Kong are protected from wind shear. And incredibly, all because of a connection to a brass band. A scientist called Christophorus Boyce-Ballard asked a brass band to help him test Christian Doppler's revolutionary theory that you can detect if something is moving towards you or away from you by measuring a change in frequency. It was over 150 years ago that players, perhaps like these, were used to demonstrate a scientific principle that we take for granted nowadays, but that back then had to be explained and demonstrated and proven. It was 1845, and what the scientists did was put horn players on a train, because we have to get the horn players moving very quickly towards us and then away from us for this to work. 150 years ago, of course, scientists didn't have health and safety forms to fill in. Now there's no way I was going to be allowed to risk these young people to prove a theory. Luckily, we've got other things in the modern world that'll do the job. It doesn't play a tune, but it does make noise, and it moves fast. Now, listen carefully to the sound of the engine. As it gets closer and then further away, the noise it makes changes, but it doesn't just get louder and then quieter. It changes in pitch. It's called the Doppler effect. It works like this. The plane produces sound waves. When it travels towards us, the waves bunch closer together, changing frequency and creating a higher-pitched sound. As the plane flies away, the sound waves stretch out, and the frequency and pitch change again. But what does the Doppler effect, or Doppler shift, have to do with detecting wind shear, those fast, potentially deadly, invisible currents of air? Well, using Doppler's principle, Hong Kong pioneered an advanced wind shear warning system. And the airport's first line of defense is 12 kilometers from the runway. Check Lapcock is right the way over there on the horizon. You'll have to sort of trust me that it is, but it is. You can just see the towers. Over here, this is part of its wind shear and turbulence warning system. And yeah, it is distant, but because of the water, it's got clear line of sight. This radar detects wind shear by looking for water droplets, usually rain. The radar waves bounce off the droplets and back to the tower. The airport can tell whether the rain is moving away from or towards the radar by measuring the change in frequency of the waves that bounce back, just like the sound of the plane changed as it flew past. Pilots can be alerted of big changes in frequency that can signal dangerous wind shear.
Even up this close, there's no sense that this mute, blank structure is watching, but it is, 24 hours a day. It's giving pilots flying into and out of Cheplap Kok over there the comfort of knowing that someone has got an eye out for them, should Mother Nature decide to make things tricky.
But what if the water droplets are too small to detect, or the air's too dry? This Doppler radar is as good as blind. So Hong Kong International Airport went a stage further and pioneered a new way of using Doppler shift to detect the invisible threat.
Anything that moves and makes a noise can produce the Doppler shift. That's why you can hear it in police sirens, aeroplanes, or a band on a train. But it's not limited just to noise. You can also detect the shift in another waveform, light.
And a special kind of light is the key to Hong Kong's other use of Doppler.
Right, a little experiment, I think. What I want to try and do is see wind shear. What I have here, obviously, is an enormous fan. Now, I know that that fan's on and creating a continuous stream of current of air because I just switched it on. But what if there was no fan and you couldn't tell? How would you know that stream of air was there? Because, well, you can't see it. Air is invisible. And that's what presents the danger to aircraft. So I'm going to ask Steve over here to see if, using your helicopter, you can tell me whether that fan is on. Flying along, straight and level. Oh, no! Ah.
Fan was on then.
Yeah, it was definitely on. Can we have the fan off, please? Thank you. Now, I'm not going to pretend that what just happened there came as a surprise. Obviously, it didn't. But what if the pilot in our helicopter, oh dear, had been able to see that current of air, that wind shear? It wouldn't have come as a surprise. Things might have ended differently. Well, at Hong Kong, they do have a way of making the invisible visible. And it all relies on the fact that the air around us, although we think of it as being just empty and invisible, is full of millions of tiny particles. I don't mean the specks of dust you might see in a shaft of sunlight through a window. I mean microscopic particles. You could fit 100 of them across the width of a human hair. And if you can see those moving, then you can see air currents moving. Let me demonstrate. Turn on the fan. Right, so that's our current of air. That's the wind shear. I shall now introduce some particles to the air. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of working. It is kind of working, but I think we can do better by making an improvement. What I need to improve is the light. Obviously, there's some light in here, that's why you can see me, but I need some specific light that I can control. So let's fire up the fan, please, first of all. That's our wind shear, our moving current of air. Now, introduce, if you will, the microscopic particles. Well, the flower. But now I can't really make out anything in there, but if I shine the light from this torch, all of a sudden, where the light is reflected back off those moving particles, I can see it. If I turn it off, really nothing at all. With the light, you can see those particles moving. And that's how they do it at Hong Kong. Let's cut the fan, please. Obviously, they don't have people wandering around with big bags of flour to introduce particles into the air. They're already there. It's those microscopic particles, remember, that are all around us. And they don't use torches. They use lasers, but it's still light.
And it's from this unassuming box on the airport roof that the light comes. It's a laser called LiDAR. I'm taking a look inside with airport meteorologist Mr. Chan.
Wow, it's an electric shed. What's this do then?
It's measuring winds, detecting wind shear over the airport.
It detects particles too small to be found using Doppler radar.
And is it doing that all the time? Is it doing it sometimes?
Yeah, it's measuring continuously and detecting wind shear continuously over the airport.
So even now, as we're inside it, it's still keeping an eye on it?
Yeah.
In fact, LiDAR is so accurate it can provide precise wind speeds up to 10 kilometers away. Hongkong International Airport was the first to use Doppler this way, keeping aircraft safe from wind shear.